Hello
Welcome,
and
everyone.
welcome. Welcome to the workshop, The Intersectional Politics of Fashion Education, Nightmares and Dreams, a workshop of constructive collective destruction. So this is not so much a panel, it's really an interactive workshop. And as an interactive workshop, it would be fantastic to see some of your faces and also to hear where you're joining us from. So please use the chat to just quickly put in where you're joining us from today. Might be the city or the college or also the course that you want to include. So today's workshop is going to run by myself. I'm Renate Stauss. I'm a professor of fashion studies at the American University of Paris. And I pass on to Marteena to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marteena Mendelssohn. I'm a student at the American University of Paris. I study creative writing, and I'm an intern for Renate Stauss and Franziska Schreiber.
Yes, thank you, Marteena. So, welcome, everybody. My name is Franziska Schreiber. I'm a professor for fashion design at the Berlin University of the Arts. So, I'm looking more from the practice-led side perspectives on this workshop.
So what brought us together and really brought us together was really this love for making and wearing fashion, for learning and thinking through fashion, and we were also brought together by our critique of fashion education as much as our belief in it and its potential, and a critique of its exclusiveness, of its discriminatory practices, its complicity with and feeding of a highly problematic industry, as much as its connective, educational and transformative potential. So that's really in line with what Bell Hooks has expressed as the classroom remains the most radical political space of possibility in the academy. And we would add that education in itself does not automatically hold the answers, as David Orr has noted so poignantly in his saying, it is not education, but education of a certain kind that will save us. So it's really this, simultaneously thinking of exploration, critique and possibility, which determined our work on fashion education, where we founded the digital multilogs that some of you might come across, also participated in 2020, 2021, and then just on Wednesday, the multilog on what can fashion education do, taking the predicament that the world is on fire, but we're still teaching fashion. And also through our podcast entitled Fashion is a Great Teacher, where we, for example, spoke to Tanvir Ahmed. I think some of you might be lucky enough to be in class with her, and really speaking about different fashion educational practices. So for framing this workshop, Franziska is going to give you the core idea.
Yeah, so today's workshop, The Intersectional Politics of Fashion Education, Nightmares and Dreams, is a workshop of constructive collective destruction. It's really about thinking what we want to throw and to keep in fashion education right now. For long, the dominant model of fashion education involved an individualistic and restricted educational model and practices complicit in and productive of an exclusive, singular fashion system. What education is relevant for the world we live in, the futures we want to create, what kinds of fashion education are needed now. This workshop will be framed by recent developments in the field named to collective destruction to rebuild. So we will give little inputs and then really creatively try to work together and foster to the collective brain of this, of all of us.
So really the workshop is about collective brainstorming, collective dreaming. It's, as I said, very much an interactive workshop. At the core of what we do is multi-logging, which involves a lot of people, and we really rely on your voices and your input and your different experiences. And I think this is when something creative and constructive can emerge. So just to frame this title we've given, this intersectional politics, I think what we're currently seeing is really a growing critical discourse on the intersectional politics of fashion education. So when we refer to fashion education, we're aware of the richness of learning approaches to fashion. And at the same time, there's a dominant model that we're really part of. You know, we're at St. Martin's, at least virtually, which is really, you know, has been sort of heralded as, you know, the top school in the world, etc. So there's this discourse of center and periphery of domination as well. So while we're aware of the richness of fashion education, there's a dominant model that is now being exported globally, with a lot of colleges in the UK and the US especially founding sort of so-called daughter institutions in the global Southwest and really expanding the educational market and turning education into a business. And generally, I would say that fashion education fits like a glove into the capitalistic logic. Fashion education could be regarded as a favorite child of capitalism and has co-opted the fashion industry for a long time now. So what we're seeing is a growing critical and long overdue discourse calling into question particularly the dominant global Western approach to fashion education in its co-opting the fashion industry. As Ben Berry stated so poignantly at last year's Digital Multilogue, he said, "The house of fashion education is constructed on a foundation of whiteness, thinness, able-bodiedness, and binaries. And simply welcoming in diversity and inclusion maintains this foundation that constructs the house." So to start this workshop, we want to take the temperature really among you as participants, what your concerns are in currently learning fashion. And with that, I'll pass over to Marteena.
Hi, everyone. So yes, so just to kick off our first interactive activity of the day, so we have a question that we want to ask. And that question is, what horrifies you about current fashion education? So you can scan the QR code on your phone, or I can type the link in the chat just now. And we want you to go to the Mentimeter, and there's a prompt, and it has about 5 words on there that you can insert. And we just want to see, you know, what exactly are we kind of sharing? What nightmares are we sharing at this current moment in fashion education?
Thank you. So I'm sure many of you will be familiar with Mentimeter. You can go to the site, type in 5 words, and then we'll see what the concerns are, what are the shared concerns, what are individual concerns. So I'm just going to swap over to the website to see what comes up.
There was a little glimpse already of the words that came up. There's more already.
You should be able to see we have unemployment, impracticality, limitation, lack of sustainability, toxicity,
Unpreparedness.
So sustainability comes up in different guises, as it were. So there's sustainability, lack of sustainability, the lack of POC design tutors, fake wokeness, lack of time with tutors. Diversity, I think, is something, again, it comes up in different guises. That's great. Thank you all very much for contributing and really, yeah, showing us, giving us an impression in a way what shared concerns are with what we're doing.
And
I'm just going to switch back to the...
Before we really want to start our creativity and start to destruct and reconstruct maybe ideas, we would love to give you a little input and try to frame a little more how did we get there, what are the developments maybe that we're having this shared concerns about fashion education.
Because really what we can see, that fashion education is in crisis. It's not aligned, it's not fit for purpose, and it needs rebuilding. So what we've done is look back and asked ourselves, okay, how did we get here? So we've identified these 6 major developments in the recent few decades in fashion education. We're going to very quickly outline them and then ask you back to think with us, to think together, you know, what to throw, what to keep, and how to go about it.
Yeah, first development is, or we call it academisation. So fashion education is originated in studio work. It used to be an education of makers. So traditionally the making, but also designing of clothing has been taught in the business, really, mostly at craft and workshops. And since the 19th century, it started to also been taught in, like you see in the picture, in vocational schools. And since then, fashion has started being taught at technical colleges and also universities. And there's a major development in the last 100 years that it moved from the more vocational training of craft and making to widely established tertiary education.
And what's come with that is really the structural and conceptual academization was fathered by an intellectualization and a scientification of fashion. And it takes place, I don't know if any of you know the old site, Centre St. Martin's in the 90s is an important site. Fashion became widely recognized as a subject of study, you know, journals like Fashion Theory came about. And really, what this intellectualization was also part of is another major development, which is specialization. So this is played out in the development of specialist courses, not just around fashion theory, fashion history, but mainly, and you all know this, specialist design courses, communication marketing courses, marketing, PR, business, buying, styling, photography, journalism, mirroring a growing specialization and marketization of the fashion industry itself. And really now so-called fashion professionals are being educated mainly for the industrialized, externalized and media marketing oriented fashion business. And what has happened here is a separation from design idea and realization to its making. So there's a problematic division of academic versus vocational, knowledge versus skill, creative labor versus productive labor, and so-called production is relegated to the executive non-creative and is also paid a lot less. The closer you get to production, the lesser you're valued, the lesser you're paid. The closer you get to the land, the lesser you're paid, the lesser you're valued. So hierarchization is an important point.
There's specialization, of course, in education, or the separation of the disciplines really solidifies also the global hierarchization that we see. So fashion education in the global West, as Renate already said, produces mainly higher trained professionals, whereas fashion production is mainly located in the global Southeast. So there's very strong vertical and horizontal hierarchies. Current educational model has co-created this hierarchization, favoring designers, marketeers, and communicators over market makers, them being recognized as the fashion professionals, solidifying a local and global hierarchization. And these hierarchizations are of course, visible in various fields of working conditions. We're talking about salaries, working hours, and also in the validation of intellectual work versus manual work.
Something which we're all witnessing is a huge expansion. You know, the specialization I just mentioned goes hand in hand with a huge expansion of the field of fashion education, which has essentially become a business. So where we are joining you from, which is from Berlin at the moment, in Germany in 2000, you had 4,000 enrolled students in this area of textile and fashion. 2020 was 6,000 students. The problem is that only 92 companies in Germany larger than 50 employees to employ these. So essentially, these students are going into an empty market. In the US, the same has happened, where student numbers have tripled. In the UK, where most of Europe are based, over the past 2 decades, fashion has become one of the most competitive courses at university, with at least 6 applications for each place at the top schools. So here you can see that the UK had over 1,400 fashion design courses provided by over 200 providers. You have 4,000 fashion design graduates every year. 8 or 7 years ago, you have almost double that number now. So it's more schools, more courses, more students, but especially from the late 1980s, you see this vast externalization of the industry away from Western Europe and North America to the global South in terms of making. So there is an industry that's really not relevant for the number of graduates that are coming out of this system. So there's a quantitative discrepancy, but there's also a qualitative discrepancy. As Frederica Carlotto observed, teaching methods are often the same as they were 100 years ago. So huge expansion, but no development or little development.
Yeah, and fashion education has developed really into an education business with that resonating cavity in the labour market. The larger creative industry developments created breeding ground for privatizations and boosted the market where education is based, dependent and interlinked to economic efficiencies. Private institutions or educational powerhouses, I think it's also because we're looking from Germany, and the private educational market is a different one from the one in the UK, I suppose. It is important to know that fashion education, of course, has a long and rich tradition in all parts of the world, and that we are just critiquing the Euro-American model, because currently we see an expansion of this model taking as an economic opportunity in various regions of the world. So while it is clear that education costs money, and design education even more so, there is an urgent question of ethics with unequal opportunities and access. We're witnessing an acceleration, intensification, and a dangerous shift in the values. And this is also fueled by the processes of digitalisation.
And digitalization, I mean, really, it's been an important driver and determinant in the fashion industry and fashion education in the last years anyway. COVID has strongly amplified and accelerated the developments. There are these big hopes and promises to do better, more accessible, to be more sustainable. At the same time, the process of dematerialization, dehumanization, change the pace and cycles of making, of learning, of teaching. And there's again a set of ethical questions occurring when it comes to constructing a digital value chain. So just as one example, you have digital fashion being made in the global West and shown by big fashion houses. They're being programmed by, for example, Indian programmers in huge halls that get paid a pittance. So you have the same model, the same economic capitalist model, exploitative model repeated.
Yeah, these developments that we just described, so academization, specialization, hierarchization, expansion, commercialization, digitalization of the fashion education in recent months, years and decades, has resulted in what we see as a lack of alignment between current fashion education, the professional field of fashion, and the world we live in. The values of fashion education don't align with the values needed to create a more equal and sustainable world. And as a result, we find ourselves within a fashion education system characterized by discriminations.
So these developments have produced highly exclusive, expensive, inaccessible, irrelevant fashion educational system. Educational opportunities, discrimination based on race, national origin, sex, religion, disability, language skills, economic conditions remain rife and concern access, study, and career chances. So you could say getting in, being at, and moving on fashion education is really divisive. There are different discriminations at different stages of the education that need to be taken into account. The figures are still hard to get. You get some figures about access to university. Those of you who watched Ricardo Barker's film yesterday, I think very powerful voices there from Disclosure, Voicing Our Truth, that talked about being denied the chance to do even get in, but also when you're in to really participate and be seen. I think an important source of data is the FACE report, See My Face, that some of you have probably already read. If you haven't read it, it's highly recommendable. And it's really showing us the differences in perception and access for what they've termed minoritized students. The need for transformation is really rife, and there are many important voices. Tanvir at Centre St. Martin asking questions like, are fashion sketchbook races, for example? The FACE Summit is a hugely important and timely event to address, but also to bring people together and collectively work. But how do we transform fashion education? How do we transform the sector? There are different ways of transforming a problem. One is to stop something, to stop doing bad. The other is to amplify the good. And the third is to develop new behavior. And this is what we would like to do with you now for this next really interactive half an hour, a kind of creative, collaborative, constructive destruction.
Yes, so let's start with our first collective brainstorming round, and we first want to use our creativity to really turn the question somehow around and ask, or I would like to invite you and ask the question, so what can you do to create the most horrific fashion learning experience? So it's really about thinking what actions, what learning settings, what experiences make fashion learning the most exclusive, the most discriminatory, most devaluing experiences you ever could think of. So make yourself a list, really. If you have a pen and paper, please grab it, make a list for yourself, or try to collect ideas just for yourself in the brain for now. Make a list of what can you do to create the most horrific fashion learning experience. So make a little list, go wild, go crazy. Use your creativity to really think about the biggest nightmares that you could imagine that could happen in a fashion learning, in a space where we learn about fashion together. If you have that list, then of course we would be curious to hear what your ideas are about. Please put it in the chat. So what you think of, what are the most horrific fashion learning experiences? A crit day every day, very nice, good idea. So let's go. What are there other ideas? So what are horrific fashion learning experiences? Not sleeping and eating properly, yes. Having tutors falsely lead you on with encouraging that you pursue a particular discipline within fashion because, of course, not a way to harness creativity, but just a business. Yeah, no diversity in the student and teaching body. Yes. Bad teaching with a lot of ignorance. Yes, of course. Let us know about your ideas. Teach only global Western fashion history. the assumption that a person doesn't speak English because of how they look like and pretending to not understand what they are saying regardless of how well spoken they are. Of course, there's language coming in, discriminations by language, and thanks a lot for sharing. So now, if you have your list in mind or on a paper, think about for a little moment, if there's parts, be really, really honest to yourself. Is there parts of this list where you engage in? Is there things you also sometimes, is there items that you sometimes do, or we all do sometimes? So try to be honest with yourself. What are just a little tiny bit are engaged in and a part of this? Circle these items. What do you think? Is there anything you think, there's a part I have in, there's a little kind of responsibility on it? Circle these items. And if you have circled them, then now underline items that you really would love to stop. So what actions or behavior do you really want to stop? Underline these.
If you've just joined us, we're engaging in collective creative destruction of the current fashion education model, and thinking about what can you do to create the most terrific fashion learning experience. Thinking also, what are our parts that we play? What do we contribute? And what is it that we're wanting to stop? And we're now just very briefly going to send you into a breakout room with another person in the workshop to have a very brief exchange about what it is that you're wanting to stop. What have you come up with, and what is the point where you say, oh, this is something actually I do sometimes do. And as Franziska said, sometimes we all we all engage in certain behavior where we know this isn't really contributing to the best possible learning experience here, or the the most open or equal experience for everyone. So we're going to, you'll be sent into a breakout now for about 5 minutes and then called back. So have an exchange with the partner in your breakout about what it is that you're wanting to stop. Sarah will kindly send you into a breakout.
Okay, should be doing that now.
Yes, please.
Yes.
It's sort of doing it.
Great, fantastic. And I think you might need to accept being sent into breakout.
It'll just be.
There was someone I wouldn't let me assign. I'm just trying to check.
That's okay.
Tilda's in a room on her own.
Maybe you can switch her to another room where already people there.
Yeah.
So she can be with two people.
Two people.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Yeah. Sign. Some people would not let me. Wait, she's switching her.
That's
right,
okay.
hang on. And put in sign Joe.
Franzi, ganz kurz, ich glaube, den letzten Teil, den dritten Teil, was
Ja,
kannst du kurz, machen wir nicht als Breakout, sondern machen wir nur als kurz und dann nur in Chat, ne? Und kannst du die nächste Frage dann auch wieder in Chat posten?
Ja.
Weil ich kann nicht alles machen.
Ja.
Okay. Marteena, are you at AUP right now?
Yes, yes, I am.
Great. It's been your crazy day, hasn't it?
For how many minutes we should let
Well, we said
participants
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Did you, Sarah? Did you pre-program or do you manually get
didn't
people back?
I'll manually call them back. So tell me,
Okay.
can you just give me, so how was
Yeah.
that? Sort of 3 more minutes?
Yeah, I think 2.5
Yeah.
kind of.
2.5.
And Green and Joelle, who've joined us more recently, if you're wondering where everybody is, there in the breakout rooms having an exchange over. We asked them to think about what can you do to create the most horrific fashion learning experience, and what is it that you are sometimes involved in doing yourself, and what is it that you're wanting to stop about that kind of behavior. So really thinking about how to transform fashion education. But everybody's going to be back in about 1.5 minutes, so you can just hang on and we'll continue in a moment.
Renate, what was the next round? How many?
The next round is it's 3 people.
3
Fine.
people, yeah.
Yeah. And we're just going to do 1 more breakout and not 2 more breakouts. So just 1 3 people
Just 1 more.
breakout.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
Thank you.
Shall we do the chat round, reflecting on the exchanges in the breakout?
No, I think we'll go. Yeah,
we just drop it and we go further, right?
Yeah. Sarah, when you ask people back, is it immediately or do they get a few seconds to finish up? What's the setting?
I gave them a 1-minute notice call like 30 seconds ago, so I was just
Fantastic.
Just call them back.
Fantastic.
Yes,
yeah.
Thank you.
I just give it few more.
Okay, so participants are supposed to come back very soon, right?
All right, I'll call them back now.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
The rooms are just closing. And
Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Stop.
There you are.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. So hopefully you enjoyed the exchanges about what you really want to stop. So what kind of horrific fashion learning experiences you never want to experience again. So let's go on with our creative distraction.
So now we're moving to reconstruction already. So the different ways of changing a situation is really thinking about what do you want to stop in terms of your behavior, but also what do you want to amplify in terms of good practice and good behavior. So we ask you now to think about the most positive, empowering, transformational fashion learning experience that you've had. And that can be, something that you were part of, something that you facilitated, something that you witnessed, something that you heard about or read about. And we would love for you to share a story of the most positive, empowering, transformational fashion learning experience that you've encountered. So have a moment to think about that. And we will now send you again into a breakout, different constellation. There's going to be 3 people in every room. You might want to, open your cameras for these little chats to make it a little more personal, to create a bit more of a personal space. And we ask you to each share a story. So for about a minute, share your story, ask each other. And again, we'll have these short breakout rooms for about 6 minutes, have an exchange about these most positive, empowering, transformational fashion learning experiences. And then we ask you back. So
And
Sarah, if you could kindly move people into the breakout rooms now.
And try to really listen to each other. Do not interrupt the stories. Accept if you want to amplify and say, "Oh, great! This is a very good experience. This is what is really valuable to amplify." So don't ask people about how, what, where, but just try to be very positive in your reaction in the stories.
Sarah, if you could kindly move people across, that would be
them.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Sarah, which session were you in before? What was the last session you were doing?
So I did the panel 1, which was with...
Oh, I was there. It was really good.
Yeah, it was lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, really strong.
Rada. Yeah, they were great.
Yeah.
You know what I loved about...
Which one was it?
It was about racism in the fashion industry.
Ah, really good.
So Marteena, you wanted to say something?
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say that the Mentimeter for the dreams one is the same as the nightmares. Is that okay? Or
yeah, it's the same link. It's just page 2, basically. So what I will do, which I can do, hold on, I quickly stop sharing. Very good point. Thank you. So what I will do is already move to
Mentimeter.
Second one. Yeah. So it's the same link, but it's just the second page, basically.
When people come back now, we would have a little reflection round, right, in chat.
Yeah. Marteena, were you able to attend anything from FACE?
No, unfortunately, I haven't. I was just in class all day and yesterday, so I just missed the whole thing.
Yeah, it was really, really good. I enjoyed yesterday Christina's talk. I thought was great, and then also this morning there were a couple of really interesting talks. Sarah, were you able to go to any, or are you more sort of on the tech side for this?
Yeah, I am more on the tech side, but I did manage to get to listen to some. Like, I think I was I was listening to my phone on the way home with my kids. Like, I'd had to take them to their swimming lesson, and so I was like making sure it worked, and I was like listening in. It was great. Yeah, it's really fun yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
I was in the digital talking about like discriminations and digitization, and Noreen Kamisani.
Yeah.
He was also in talking about digital sustainability, but there was also someone else, Sonia Sood, I think. She was talking about data, like how racism solidifies also how data analysis solidifies also racism. Very interesting. So not knowing about the right sources and numbers of data is really interesting.
Hi, Patrick, you've just joined us. The other participants are just in breakout rooms talking about positive experiences and empowering transformational fashion learning experiences. So they should be back in about 1 minute. So just bear with us. Sarah, if you could give them a note and then pull them back in 1 minute, that would be fantastic.
1 minute announcement. Yeah, I've just said.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Marteena, do you have more classes after this, or can you join the program again?
I have a midterm at 4:55.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was midterm. Oh,
Yeah.
Which
You
is
are
an
so
exam,
good.
really, Marteena?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
It's a paper, yeah. Yeah,
So
it's
you have to write a
midterm week.
paper. You have to write something, or
No. So
what
this one is for my marketing class. So it's multiple choice. I think 50 or 60 multiple choice questions.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Woo. A tough one today.
Yeah.
Hi, Curtis. The others are just coming back from breakout rooms where they shared stories of their most positive, empowering, transformational fashion learning experiences.
Should I bring them back now?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Just called them back.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.
Welcome back. So welcome back. We hope that you had a constructive and enriching exchange in your little groups, and we would love to hear back from you. So think about, in your groups, hearing these different stories of the most positive, empowering, transformational fashioning learning experiences. Did you see any patterns emerging or any similarities that came up in the groups? So maybe you can use the chat to share some of these patterns or similarities, or indeed some of these most positive, empowering, transformational experiences themselves. Or maybe some of you, rather than writing, would also just like to open up the mic and share one of the stories that you've had, one of the moments. So we'd love to hear your experience, positive, empowering, transformational fashion learning moments, fashion learning experiences.
Hi.
Hi.
So I guess I would like to share, like, when I was in my internship, I guess it was quite an empowering fashion moment for me because um, my boss actually took time into harnessing thinking skills other than just the making. He would make us read books and report back to him after we actually read through them. And I believe that was the beginning of like a positive change because it made me think, that all these rumors are not that bad when you appear in the right place, since there's a lot of rumors about fashion being quite tough on people. And I guess the mentorship really strengthened my character as a person, and it allowed me to have a safe space to become a better version of myself, I guess. So that's about it, I think.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's great. Anyone else would like to share a positive learning experience? So we hope that even though you're not using the chat, it still means that you've had positive learning experience. And we would like to together think about dreams. And I pass on to Marteena.
Yes, so once again, I will paste the link in the chat for a little more thinking about what is the most positive and empowering impact fashion education can have. So, and 5 words or less, try to gather your thoughts and think about what has been the most empowering impact that fashion education has had and probably will have in the future, because we always want to look toward the future. So yeah, let's think about this collective idea together.
I'll just switch over to the other site again and see what dreams are emerging. Are there dreams emerging? What do you think is fashion education capable of?
There's first dreams, free thinking, the hands-on of fashion education, innovation, inclusivity, empowerment of pop, guidance, creativity.
And as soon as words appear larger, so innovation and free thinking is obviously something that a number of you believe can be fostered through fashion education, can be developed. And even though, for example, we've seen that diversity was something that you were also, lack of diversity was something that you were horrified with currently in fashion education, it also has the capacity to foster that, to open up to that. It can include all of us. Thank you very much for your input here. And really now we're obviously wrapping up this short workshop and thinking about what can we do, what can we do, what can be concrete next steps that we can take. So just have a quick think, just for yourself, what is it that you could do today to change? What is it that you could do, you know, tomorrow or in the next year, seeing that we're at the beginning of a new academic year, or really what might be a long-term plan for you to change in terms of creating more positive and transformational, empowering fashion learning experiences for yourself, for your fellow students, but also, you know, in terms of your institution. What can you also encourage your tutors to do if you're a student, or your colleagues to do if you're a professor? So we hope you can think about that and come away with a sense that, you know, it's worth reflecting on the bad behavior and trying to stop that. It's worth thinking about the good practice, the encouraging practices, and amplify those, but also to think about, okay, what can I do? What can we do today, tomorrow, and in the future? So we really want to thank you very much for participating in this short workshop, for drawing up these concrete steps to build a more inclusive, just and beneficial fashion education system. The urgent question remains always, you know, how can we turn our actions, how can we turn our reflections into actions? How can we turn words into deeds? And I think Greta Thunberg has reminded us so astutely, and to extend her predicament, we cannot buy or invest ourselves out of this crisis. We can't talk or reflect ourselves out of this crisis, but we can educate and act together. And even if the circumstances seem otherwise and restricted, and even if the possible steps appear small and slow, the thinker Hannah Arendt reminds us that the smallest act in the most limited circumstances bears the seed of boundlessness, because one deed and sometimes one word suffices to change every constellation. And with that, we would like to just return back to bell hooks. So we started with, because the quote that we read, that the class remains the most radical space of possibility in the academy, continues, because bell hooks urges us all to open our minds and hearts so that we can know beyond the boundaries of what is acceptable, so that we can think and rethink, so that we can create new visions. So see that as an invitation. And from all of us, thank you very much for taking part and contributing and for dreaming together.
Yeah, thank you very much, all of you. And I think it's really about relying on all voices and bringing all voices together in a very non-hierarchical way, also talking from the perspective as fashion educator. But it's really important that we listen to you as students and that we include all voices that can be heard, be part of.
So thank you
very
all
much.
very much. Thank you to Marteena, Franziska, thank you, Sarah, for enabling this, and really to the FACE conference for inviting us. Enjoy the rest of this really hugely important summit, and all the best to you.
Bye.